What's up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about gun laws, the unorganized militia, the organized militia, the National Guard, and the Dick Act, or better known as the Militia Act of 1903. Okay. I was searching online, Wikipedia and everything, and I came across the Dick Act, right? And let me read a quote from it. Let me see. Let me find the spots. Okay. The three classes, HR 11654, provides for are the organized militia, henceforth known as the National Guard of the state, territory, and District of Columbia, the unorganized militia, which is all of us, the citizenry, and the regular army. The militia encompasses every able-bodied male between the ages of 18 and 45. All members of the unorganized militia have the absolute personal right and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of any type. Remember, any type. Full auto, 30-round clips, whatever. And as many as they can afford to buy. Okay, now, all these gun laws and stuff passed against us is unconstitutional. It goes against this act that was passed in 1903. Okay, so how can they do that? Well, they're tyrannical. Okay, let me read on. The Dick Act of 1903 cannot be repealed. To do so would violate bills of attainder and ex post facto laws, which would be yet another gross violation of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The President of the United States has zero authority without violating the Constitution to call the National Guard to serve outside of their state borders, which they're sending our National Guard to Iraq and Afghanistan, which is against this act as well, the Militia Act. The National Guard militia can only be required by the national government for a limited purposes specified in the Constitution, to uphold the laws of the Union, to suppress insurrection and repel invasion. These are the only purposes for which the general government can call upon the National Guard. Attorney General Wickersham advised President Taft, the organized militia, the National Guard, cannot be employed for offensive warfare outside the limits of the United States, quote unquote. The Honorable William Gordon, in a speech to the House on Thursday, October 4th, 1917, proved that the action of President Wilson in ordering the organized militia, the National Guard, to fight a war in Europe was so blatantly unconstitutional that he felt Wilson ought to have been impeached. During the war with England, an attempt was made by Congress to pass a bill authorizing the President to draft 100,000 men between the ages of 18 and 45 to invade enemy territory, Canada. The bill was defeated in the House by Daniel Webster on the precise point that Congress had no such power over the militia as to authorize it to empower the President to draft them into the regular army and send them out of the country. The fact is that the President has no constitutional right, under any circumstances, to draft men from the militia to fight outside the borders of the U.S. and not even beyond the borders of their respected states. Today, we have constitutional law which still stands and waiting for the legislators to obey the Constitution which they swore an oath to uphold. Charles Hughes of the American Bar Association, ABA, made a speech which is contained in the appendix of Congressional Records, House, September 10th, 1917, page 6836 through 6840, which states, "The militia within the meaning of these provisions of the Constitution is distinct from the Army of the United States." In these pages, we also find a statement made by Daniel Webster that the great principle of the Constitution on that subject is that the militia is the militia of the states and of the general government, and thus being the militia of the states, there is no part of the Constitution worded with greater care and with more scrupulous jealousy than that which grants and limits the power of Congress over it. This limitation upon the power to raise and support armies clearly establishes the intent and purpose of the framers of the Constitution to limit the power to raise and maintain a standing army to voluntary enlistment, because of the unlimited power to draft and conscript was intended to be conferred. I don't know what word that is. It would have been a useless and peril thing to limit the use of money for that purpose. Conscripted armies can be paid, but they are not required to be. And if it had been intended to confer the extraordinary power to draft the bodies of citizens and send them out of the country in direct conflict with the limitation upon the use of the militia imposed by the same section and article, certainly some restriction or limitation would have been imposed to restrain the unlimited use of such power. The Honorable William Gordon, Congressional Record, House, page 640 through 1917. Alright, guys.